Alright, so we're going to be covering existentialism today, and the whole concept of what existentialism is. So existentialism is a concept that is very varied and has multiple elements, and is very heavily featured in Rick and Morty, which is a popular show that has defined many of the shows that have followed after it. So we broke it down into three main sections. We're also going to be covering some media that also goes in depth into existentialism as itself. So we have Alante, he'll be covering nihilism, its concepts, who created it, what ideologies it has, what it has created for us as a society. Indy will be also introducing the concept of existentialism, what it is, how it affects us, and in the grand scheme of things, are we actually worth it? And Jocelyn will be covering absurdism, also the concepts of it, and how it's featured in all aspects of life, not just in media and shows. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.
To start off, what is existentialism? We spend most of our life trying to find meaning, and this is something that we dedicate hours and days and years just trying to sort out. So it is a recent modern philosophy starting in the late 19th century, and it focuses on the individual has free will to determine the meaning of our own lives. That since when we are born, that we aren't born with a set determined task or mission that we are set out to do. That is what essentialism is. So essentialism is what is essential part of our life, and it's the contrasting view of what existentialism is. So this was an old philosophy founded by Plato and Aristotle, and it was the standard view of philosophy up until the 18th century. So what essentialism is, it's like core properties, and we are born with characteristics prior to our existence, and it focuses on how we find a meaningful life. But to start off, we have to go talk about Jean-Paul Sartre, who is the founder, or who brought up what existentialism is. He is a French thinker during the mid-20th century, and he brought up the question, what are we born without any hardwired purpose? And it is up to us to find our own essence, created what we now know as existentialism. So how do you live a meaningful life? Through existentialism, it's living your own mission. So Jean-Paul Sartre brought up the key idea, because we are not born with our own ideas or our own mission to start off, to live a meaningful life, we have to live authentically. We have to live what we believe gives us a value. As opposed to existentialism, living through your own mission, it is what we believe we are born with, what we are determined to do. So we now go to what an existential crisis is, and which is a moment in which the individual questions their life has meaning, purpose, or value. Because we have to discover for ourselves what gives our own life value, meaning, and purpose. And to introduce what nihilism is, which is a philosophy branch underneath existentialism, which is introduced by Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher in the 1800s. He believes that nihilism is the ultimate belief that there is meaningless of life.
So this is just a brief history about nihilism, and this is Friedrich Jacobi. He was actually the philosopher, a German philosopher that first coined nihilism as a term. And he coined nihilism believing that it would explain away the conditions for religion, but it explained away the mysteries and uncertainties, rendering everything there was knowable. So nihilism and optimism kind of contradict each other, because nihilism is a rejection of religion and moral principles, in the belief that life is meaningless, and it is also skepticism, maintaining that nothing in this world has a true and real existence. But optimism is the hopefulness and confidence about the future and the successful outcome of something. There are two branches of nihilism: existential nihilism and cosmic nihilism. This is existential nihilism, which is that there is no inherent meaning to life, and it is up to the person to apply meaning and value, and they have to create value and sustain it through their freedom and decisions. So this is cosmic nihilism that argues that there is no truth or meaning to life in the universe, and that there's no truth or meaning to life in the universe, and that there is no meaning for constructing. There is no constructed human being.
Okay, so absurdism. What is absurdism? It's a philosophy belief that the universe is meaningless and pointless, but as an individual tries to find meaning, they often find themselves in conflict with the universe. So some figures in absurdism, Soren Kierkegaard, and so talking about Soren, he is a Danish Christian philosopher. He is known to be the founder of existentialism thought and absurdist traditions. Many of his works he shows his respondents for metaphors, parables, and all kinds of meanings. Going on to Albert Camus, he contributed to the rise of absurdism. Many of his works shows absurdism, such as the myth of Sisyphus. Also, in his works, he shows dualism, which is the polar opposites, which can be happiness and sadness, life and death, or dark and light. So some absurdism in Rick and Morty. For this one, there was that it means that logically in the shows is not impossible, or it does not mean that, but rather humanly impossible, because as they travel through different missions and travel into different dimensions, it's obviously not possible logically, but it's humanly impossible. As humans, we can't really do that in real life. So in Rick and Morty, rather than looking for like a meaning, or like just living life, they're searching for a meaning or finding a distraction from life. So some characters that show absurdism. First off, Rick. Rick is one of the main characters. He's a very depressed character. He shows that throughout the whole season, and the way he deals with that is like drinking, drugs, and like really weird sexual, habits. Also, Jerry, his son-in-law. Jerry as a character shows all of absurdism. He's constantly searching for the meaning of life. He tries to find a meaning to live, find something that he can do, and is always on the search, which is this picture. Talking to his life, why Jerry? Why expend effort? Life is effort, and I'll stop when I die. So no matter what, he's always searching for a meaning, and he won't stop until. So there's a little comparison between Jean-Paul and Morty. In episode 8, season 1, as Morty is talking to his sister, or his sister is ranting about how her parents could have been better, could have been richer without her. He tells her, as a way of comforting her, nobody exists on purpose, nobody belongs anywhere, everybody's gonna die, come watch TV. That quote that he said in the show is basically a rendition of what Jean-Paul said. Every existing thing is born without a reason, prolongs itself out of weakness, it dies by chance. So that's basically showing like Morty's new stance, because he says that as he referenced to season 1, episode 6, where at the end him and experiences for the first time wearing his own body. As he is doing that, he finds himself at like a discomfort. He doesn't know why this is right, what happened after this. But after learning that, and he's still alive through this new beginning, he understands that life is pretty much meaningless. Like there's no point of existing. It's pointless. So might as well just live it as is.
So now we're covering existentialism in media. So Rick and Morty isn't the only thing to talk about existentialism and all its different aspects. This has a long history, and you'll see some of the things that base or created the concept of Rick and Morty in general. Right, so let's start off with the grandfather of all these concepts, which is Monty Python and the troupe. So this was a troupe of performers that would create films and they would have whole shows regarding themes that we talked about a little earlier. So there's A Meaning of Life, which is a famous Monty Python film. Basically, it was a collection of films that talked about different aspects of what meaning of life is, how it means to people, but also the different themes that absurdism and Jocelyn also covered. We also have Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which also covered many of these themes, such as the Black Knight, and also Arthur in general, different aspects and motivations as to why those characters do what they do. So we have a couple films talking about different themes. So this is growing up and old. This is the concept of existentialism. And Boyhood talks much about this in the concept that there's a child that is from the age of 6 to 18. The film covers his life in that span. And it's essentially him finding his purpose in his life through different stages in that life. He sees everything in his life as sort of having no meaning in the darkness of humanity and the abuses and stuff that he experiences. And we go to American Beauty, which is about a man who is in his middle age already. And he basically has kind of an existential crisis in the form of a midlife crisis, which is another form of that. And he searches for meaning and reverts back to an old stage in his life to try and find some sort of meaning and fulfillment in that area. So we follow that up and we cover the expanse of the universe and how little we need to it. These are themes that are covered as well in Rick and Morty. So Interstellar is a film that covers what humanity is going to do when we run out of everything that we have. Where can we go? What can we do? Can we inhabit other places? What's going to be the future of humanity in itself? And 2001: A Space Odyssey covers the meaning of how humanity is, what if cosmic influence affected us as humanity and how did we move through it? And what is the reason of us as humans in general? Are we just going to be an obsolete creation that's going to be rendered useless in the next generation that follows? What is our meaning? And the one that follows is going to cover French philosophies of absurdism and nihilism. Many of these philosophers are French. Many of the concepts go into the French New Wave Revolution of film, and many of the films that followed after that. So we have Irreversible, which was actually a film of Gaspar Noé that goes into nihilism and the concepts of nihilism, humanity in itself, the ugliness of humanity, how humans interact with one another in vicious ways, because people just don't have any reason to live, honestly, and they just do whatever they want. That film explores those concepts. Le Samurai is a film about a hitman that goes in depth into his methodical way of life, where he does everything set in the status quo. He thinks he has his life set up. He's a hitman, but then one event happens and it changes his whole life. And it changes his whole reasoning and reason of purpose. And we have Requiem for a Dream, which is a collection of drug addicts that go through a series of events, making them think about their lives in a surreal format. Darren Aronofsky has many films that talk about this type of philosophy and are very interesting as well. Pretty much it. Life has meaning or it doesn't, and it's up to you. That's the main concept of this. If you want life to have meaning, give meaning to it. Find something to live for. If you don't want it to, it's up to you. These are concepts and ideas that Rick and Morty puts into us when we view it. Rick and Morty is designed to make us think. Make us think if we don't have anything in our lives, okay, that's fine. If you have something to live for it. But just make sure you find something to think about and live. That's okay. And there's maybe.
Thank you.
Questions?
Anyone?